Premium quality football shirts at an extremely affordable price. Sound good? If so, check out the sponsor of today's video, jerseyfifa.com. You can see that I've sent you some shirts and they really are top quality, so make sure to click the link in the description to go find a shirt for yourself or perhaps as a gift for someone else. And you can now use code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. That's code jerseyfifa at checkout for 10% off your order. I really do recommend their product, so go take a look. Now let's get into the analysis. So since Ten Hag has taken charge of the club and the players have been arriving for training, there actually seems to have been some positivity in the Manchester United dressing room. But yesterday it was time to see if the training is actually paying off. Now, just a bit of a disclaimer if you like, it is very important to remember that this was just a friendly. Both United and Liverpool made a lot of changes during the game and neither team was fully fit and sharp, but let's look at the setup. So for this game, Ten Hag set up pretty much how I expected in a 4-2-3-1 formation, with De Gea in goal, Shaw, Lindelof, Varane and Dalot in the back four, Fred and McTominay playing as a double pivot, and then Rashford, Fernandes and Sancho playing in behind Anthony Martial up front. So let's take a look at some of the patterns. So the first thing to point out is the shape that United looked to use when playing out from the back. And basically we saw the centre backs providing a shorter option for De Gea, whilst the fullbacks played in line with Fred. More often than not, United looked to play out from the back with shorter passing. However, there were also times when they looked to play in a slightly more direct fashion, with long balls up towards Martial. To be honest, that was a rare occurrence, and instead United looked to try and play through the press, with the safest route often being with a little clipped pass out towards one of the two fullbacks, who found themselves in a decent amount of space. We can see this here with all three Liverpool forwards pressing in quite a narrow shape, and it often did leave both Dalot and Shaw free out wide, providing a safer option for the pass. This allowed United to progress the ball towards the middle third, from where they then often looked to build possession in a 2-3 shape. However, something that was quite interesting was that it was now McTominay that was playing as the deepest midfielder instead of Fred. Whether or not McTominay will have his place in the team by the end of the summer remains to be seen, because he did struggle during the game, although for now we'll put that down to a lack of sharpness rather than ability. Something else that was quite interesting was that despite pushing slightly further forward, there were also scenarios when Fred looked to drop deeper on the left hand side, which then allowed Shaw to take up a higher starting position on the left. Now in this game it was Fred, but this is actually a role I've been talking about all summer for Frenkie de Jong to play, so perhaps this role from Fred was a little bit of an indicator of how de Jong could be used. Now as I was saying, Fred's position did keep changing, with him occasionally starting higher, and when this happened we would then see the fullbacks moving into slightly more central areas, with Dalot in particular coming further inside. We can see Dalot's narrower starting position here, making him available for the pass in the middle third, and then in this second picture here we can see Shaw taking up a similar position on the left. Now of course all of these starters only played for about 45 minutes, but I did think that Dalot looked extremely comfortable playing in this narrower area, and it's of course a pattern that was similar to the one we saw with Ajax last season. With United able to work themselves time and space in the middle third, they then of course looked to try and move the ball forward, and one way of doing this was by finding the feet of Martial, who regularly dropped deep towards the midfield. This essentially meant that Martial was operating as a false 9, and I was saying in my video recently that I do think this is his best role, and personally I thought that the way he dropped in to link the play with quick passes was very impressive. Martial's deeper movement was also important simply because it dragged the Liverpool defenders out of position, creating space in behind the defence, which Bruno Fernandes regularly looked to exploit with runs from deep bursting past the defenders. Even in the first pre-season game, Bruno's intensity and energy was pretty clear to see, and the dynamic of Martial dropping deeper with Bruno running in behind actually worked really nicely, and I look forward to seeing it more. Just quickly before we carry on, my channel recently got a new logo thanks to this brilliant designer, and since getting this more professional look my channel has grown massively, so I really do recommend that you go check out the designer to get your own logo, so make sure to check out all of the socials that are linked in the description below. So back to the match, and whilst all of these different rotations were taking place, Rashford and Sancho on the wings were both looking to pull quite wide to provide the width, and this meant that they were nearly always an easy passing option. We can see this little pattern here with Shaw tucking inside whilst Rashford pulled out extremely wide, and Sancho looked to do something very similar on the right hand side as well, giving United an easy pass. This width worked particularly well on the right hand side, with Sancho pulling out wide to receive the pass, before Dalot would then occasionally make a burst forward from deep with an underlapping run in behind the defence once again. Again, this role suited Dalot extremely well, and it was actually a really nice move where Dalot made the narrow burst forward to receive the pass before crashing an effort against the bar, and it's a pattern I recommend that you keep an eye on in the future. On top of this, there were also occasions when Dalot or Shaw would overlap instead, and obviously as a result this then allowed Rashford and Sancho to move inside, and it's of course from this sort of position that Sancho was able to get his goal. All of these patterns were actually really nice to see and created a lot of problems, but United also had a much simpler option, and that was just a long ball over the top of the defence for Martial to run onto, and again it was really threatening. Now this isn't something that we typically expect from Martial, but throughout the first half he done a brilliant job of chasing and pressing the Liverpool defenders. He didn't give them a moment's rest and forced them into a lot of errors. Overall, in possession, I thought United done a lot of things that were really impressive, and in just a short amount of time we can already see certain patterns that are starting to appear, and personally I was genuinely impressed by what we saw on the ball. Of course there were times when United made mistakes and lost the ball, but even then the reaction was impressive, as the team immediately switched to counter-press, getting players around the play to try and win the ball back as quickly as possible. We can see this in these two screenshots here, with both Lindelof and Varane pressing extremely high to try and win the ball back, and again it was a clear sign of the intent with Varane rushing forward. Now of course when you press with such intensity it can lead to errors, and at times United got the press wrong, leaving themselves incredibly exposed, and if we're being honest, Liverpool should have punished them at least once. My other slight concern was that at times Fred looked to join Bruno on the press, and when Liverpool showed quality on the ball, it did mean that they could move the ball forward and attack the spaces that were left either side of Scott McTominay. Now those issues are things that the coaches are going to need to work on, but this was just 45 minutes, and in that short amount of time I was really impressed by what we saw, and then at half time United changed all 10 outfield players. The second half never quite had the same rhythm or tempo of the first half, however there were still a few players that stood out, with Eric Bailly in particular producing an absolute second half masterclass. Another player that impressed me was Charlie Savage. The 19-year-old came on and played against the likes of Fabinho, Keita and Thiago, but he didn't look out of place one bit, and he showed a lot of confidence to keep getting the ball. I would say the same for Zidane Iqbal as well, who played as Savage's partner, and again I thought he showed great confidence and technical ability to keep taking the ball under pressure before then turning to try and play forward. Overall I thought that both the first half and the second half were very impressive for different reasons, and I think Ten Hag deserves a lot of credit for the way that he is developing clear patterns of play already. United definitely deserved the win, but it's also important to remember that it was just a friendly, but it was still the perfect start to life under Erik Ten Hag. Let me know what you thought of the match in the comments down below. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one.